Welcome to That's Good Sports. I'm your football host, Brandon, the most appropriately rated YouTuber in the world, Perna. Don't let my averageness fool you, though. Today, I have a great episode about the most underrated players on every AFC team. I asked you a couple weeks ago in my community tab who you thought the most underrated player on the NFL team you root for was. That is how I tricked you into doing my work for me. Now, I didn't agree with all of your choices because some of you are idiots, but these are officially the most underrated AFC players on every team. The NFC episode will come out tomorrow or the next day or next week, whenever. But make sure you watch that one too. It's good sports. For daily NFL news videos, subscribe to this YouTube channel. Today's episode is sponsored by manscaped.com/goodsports and the Perfect Package 3.0 kit, which features high-performance boxer briefs. Anytime you can point down to your groin and say high performance, please do it. The Perfect Package 3.0 comes with the new Lawnmower 3.0, which is a water-resistant body hair trimmer built with skin-safe technology to reduce nicks and cuts down in your penis, balls, pube, testicles region. Once you have your crotch manscaped to your liking, cover the family jewels with Manscaped's anti-chafing cooling boxer briefs. Your balls need to breathe. They're basically the lungs of your legs. These boxer briefs help them do just that, as they're made from a super soft contour flex material, which is a microfiber blend that also repels moisture. So if you don't want to suffocate your balls, go to manscaped.com/goodsports with my discount link below to get 2 free gifts plus 20% off and free international shipping. First of all, what does it actually mean to be underrated in the NFL? Almost anyone can be underrated, from a backup to an all-pro. A lot of this is perception, media attention, and respect among their peers. A lot of it is arbitrary and decided by me. You disagree with my assessment? Then maybe start your own channel and go be wrong there. We're gonna start with the Buffalo Bills. Jordan Poyer and Matt Milano were a couple names I saw quite a bit in the comments. Both definitely underrated, but I did see more Milanos in your responses, and he also sticks out to me as well from the last couple times the Broncos played the Bills. I think Tre'Davious White is underrated as far as elite corners go, but that's also a product of playing in Buffalo. I don't think John Brown got enough credit last year, putting up 1,000 yards without a true number 2 on the other side, and Josh Allen missing every third throw by 20 yards. Sorry about that cheap shot, Bills fans. The only cheap shots you deserve is a shot of Smirnoff before you break a table before the game. I think I just admitted every Buffalo Bills player is underrated. Back to where I started though, an underrated part of Matt Milano's game is his coverage ability. He was thrown at 66 times last season, 30 of which probably were 5-yard passes from Tom Brady, and he only gave up 1 passing touchdown. Plus, he had 101 combined tackles on the season. The New England Patriots. Now, he may not have had the strongest finish to the season, but corner Jonathan Jones did a pretty great job playing opposite Stephon Gilmore. This happens all the time in a great secondary. You get one dominant shutdown corner who gets all of the national credit, like Gilmore, and you have another guy playing great football that only team fans truly appreciate. That guy was Chris Harris Jr. for the Broncos. Everyone talked about Aqib Talib while Strap played near-perfect football week in and week out. Now, Jonathan Jones does deserve more credit, but now the most underrated player might be all 8 of the Patriots opt-outs if it leads to them getting Trevor Lawrence. The New York Jets, with Jamal Adams and CJ Mosley gone, they may not have anyone on defense worthy of being called underrated. I think as a team, they might have had the fewest quarterback pressures in the league last year, but I wanted to pick a defensive guy because the Jets maybe had one of the least impressive offensive rosters in 2019 as well. So my official answer is Jordan Jenkins, who led the team in sacks last season with 8 and had 2 forced fumbles. He's gotten better every year, and I'm under the impression that not a lot of people know who he is. You know who was second in sacks for the Jets? Jamal Adams. The Miami Dolphins. Devontae Parker deserves a ton of credit for how he completely torched the Defensive Player of the Year in Week 17 last season and quite possibly saved us from another Patriots Super Bowl appearance. Tight end Mike Gesicki really came on at the end of last season, and I think there's a strange case to be made that Josh Rosen is underrated. At the very least, he's better than a third-string quarterback, which is what he is right now. But let's give it to Mike Gesicki, who will be ignored this season primarily because his name contains the word sick, and no one wants to think about that right now. My tip is he will be a steal in fantasy football when everyone overdrafts Gronk. The Indianapolis Colts. Now Jacoby Brissett. People have totally forgotten about the existence of Jacoby Brissett because the team didn't trade him after they signed Phillip Rivers. Brissett could potentially be the best backup quarterback in the NFL, and he's going to be playing behind a quarterback that's never missed a start in his career. Brissett had 18 touchdowns and 6 interceptions, and while you can understand why Indy wanted to upgrade, Jacoby is a great plan B in a season where you can lose any player on your team almost instantly. And Phillip Rivers has 9 petri dishes at his home that can bring him the Rona any day of the week, and Jacoby may assume the exact role Teddy Bridgewater did last year for the Saints. The underrated player in Indy who will contribute more than Brissett this season is Justin Houston. Nobody talked about him last year because he sacked Mason Rudolph without also trying to murder him. But he had 11 sacks in his first year with the Colts. 11 sacks is tied for Houston's second best season. He's only 31, even though he looks like he's 55, and he will be productive again this year. The Jacksonville Jaguars. In the case of the Jaguars, the most obvious answer might actually be the correct one. Gardner Minshew's rookie season doesn't get the praise it deserves. He came out of nowhere as a 6th rounder to put up a 6-6 record on an overmatched team, and he threw 15 more touchdowns than picks in doing so. I think the character of Gardner Minshew overshadows how effective he was last season. He's also the first person on Earth to actively deny coronavirus at the rim, leading to a scenario where epidemiologists may have to study his biology and replicate his cells. Soon, we will all have Minshew inside of us. Yes, we will. And with another good season at quarterback, we may be talking more about DJ Shark as the most underrated player in Jacksonville in 2021. The Houston Texans. I'm going with Zach Cunningham, who was a tackling machine at the inside linebacker position for the Texans last season, making 142 combined tackles, which was 6th best in the league last year. If you're a Texans defender not named J.J. Watt, you're probably not going to get much credit. But Cunningham does a lot of the dirty work and probably would have been a first-round pick had he played anywhere but Vanderbilt. David Johnson has a chance to take this title if he can turn things around in Houston and clicks with Watson better than he did with Kyler Murray, but he'll always be known as not DeAndre Hopkins and a symbol of dysfunction to Texans fans. The Tennessee Titans. A couple of you said Jayon Brown and Kevin Byard, which is definitely fair considering some people out there don't even consider Byard a real football player. But I've got another name to add, Harold Landry. Had a very quiet 9 sacks for Tennessee last season, plus an interception and a couple fumble recoveries. For some reason, Landry didn't go until the 2nd round of the 2018 draft, despite racking up 26 career sacks and 10 forced fumbles at Boston College. But he gave the Titans the edge rusher they desperately needed last season. No one else on the team had more than 5 sacks. Also, he's certainly the best Harold in the league. Are there any Kumars the Titans can draft in 2021? Pittsburgh Steelers. It's Deontay Johnson, who had a really nice rookie season Antonio Brown left the Steelers, and Juju Smith-Schuster was supposed to be the hands-down number one wide receiver, but only put up 552 yards and 3 touchdowns in 12 games. I think what we learned there is that it's a lot easier to play wide receiver with one of the best in the game on the other side, and having a yardage whore like Big Ben throwing you the ball. James Washington ended up being the leading receiver on that team with just 735 yards, just about half of what Juju Smith-Schuster posted in 2018. Both of those young receivers deserve more credit, and that's taking in account Washington's underwhelming rookie season. Johnson, with a competent quarterback, could put up huge numbers this year. Cleveland Browns. The only player left from 2014, the year the Browns were 7-4 through 11 games, is left guard Joe Bitonio. It would be fair to call Nick Chubb the most underrated player on this offense, but that's not production related. It's because no one pays attention to anything he says, with Baker Mayfield, Jarvis Landry, Myles Garrett, and Odell Beckham stealing all of the sound bites. Bitonio allows the Browns to run the ball effectively, and he was the only guy holding that offensive line together before they retooled in the offseason, only to lose 3 guards to opt-outs. The Cincinnati Bengals. I'm not sure anyone on the 2019 Bengals deserves any more credit than the 0 credit they received. But someone had to be responsible for their 2 wins. Tyler Boyd is that guy. I doubt he's underappreciated among Bengals fans, but I doubt most other football fans realize that he's put up 2 straight 1,000-yard receiving seasons with such elite quarterbacks as Andy Dalton, Jeff Driscoll, and Ryan Finley. The Baltimore Ravens. How is anyone on the Ravens underrated when all 53 players made the Pro Bowl last season? Oh wait, I found one. The Ravens' most underrated player is their backup running back, Gus Edwards. How in the world, on a team where the starting running back and the starting quarterback each rush for 1,000 yards, is the backup running back able to pick up 711 yards on the ground? Edwards averaged 5.3 yards per attempt, which was more than Mark Ingram. Edwards has a career average of 5.3 yards per carry over 2 years, which is between Jim Brown and Jamal Charles on the all-time list, though he hasn't had enough carries to qualify. The Ravens' rushing stats get even crazier, though, when you factor in third-string running back Justice Hill. Hill had 225 rushing yards behind Edwards and 2 touchdowns. The Ravens are the only team in NFL history to produce 3,200 rushing yards and think, shit, let's draft a running back in the 2nd round. I have no idea how J.K. Dobbins will be used, but he's my favorite for 2021's most underrated player on the Ravens, the Las Vegas Raiders. Let's go ahead and give this to defensive end Max Crosby, and be thankful his name isn't Max Cosby. It looks like the Raiders swung and missed on Clelin Ferrell with the 6th overall pick in 2019. That's the biggest bust for a Ferrell since Holmes and Watson, where even those legendary detectives couldn't solve the mystery of why John Gruden can't understand draft value. That said, their 4th rounder, Max Crosby, ended up playing like someone drafted in Ferrell's spot. 10 sacks, 4 forced fumbles, and 16 tackles for a loss. Crosby played well once his broken arm healed. He did have an outlier game with 4 sacks, so I'll be curious to see how he produces through a full season when the Bengals don't give him close to half his season sack total. It's hard to tell whether Derek Carr is underrated or overrated. Looking at his raw stats, it would suggest underrated, but the eye test suggests that he plays the game like a frightened child hiding underneath his mother's skirt and is not worthy of the underrated designation and deserves all of the disrespect he hates getting. Los Angeles Chargers. I'd like to say Chris Harris Jr., since he was perennially underrated here in Denver, but he is now dead to me and a traitor. Instead, I'll give it to linebacker Drew Tranquill for boldly putting a Kevin Spacey movie on his cleats. Shockingly, I did not get many responses from Chargers fans on this poll, but Tranquill was the team's 2nd leading tackler as a rookie 4th round pick and made an instant impact on special teams with a blocked punt in his first game in the NFL, blocked another 8 weeks later and made 11 total special teams tackles on the season. The Kansas City Chiefs. Daniel Sorensen got a few mentions, and I think that's a fair answer for someone named Dirty Dan, or Dirty Danchez. Usually those guys are on a sex offender list. Sorensen had been at safety for Kansas City since 2014, basically when they had to hold it down while Eric Berry was recovering from his cancer treatment. I don't think Mecole Hardman gets quite enough attention for the fact that he averaged 20 yards per reception last season and made the Pro Bowl as a kick returner. Basically, all of these guys are going to be lacking in attention as long as the media is around to lick the ketchup off of Pat Mahomes' balls. And finally, the Denver Broncos, aka the Horsecock Lock shirts, which are available in the Teespring store below. Broncos, after growing a Dirty Sanchez of his own, receiver Cortland Sutton is starting to get the attention he deserves. Now, there are two guys who don't get enough credit in Denver, in my opinion. Shelby Harris, and now Alexander Johnson. Johnson didn't start playing linebacker until week 5, but made an immediate impact on the defense with the athleticism the Broncos have missed at the linebacker position since Danny Trevathan left for Chicago. Johnson finished with 93 combined tackles and an interception. He was the 6th highest graded linebacker by Pro Football Focus and played in coverage very well at times. Once he covers consistently, or learns to cover consistently, he may be considered a top 3 linebacker in the league. Another guy I wanted to point out is Jarrell Casey, who I think has only become underrated because the Broncos got him for a 7th round pick. Casey was still a Pro Bowler last season. He put up 5 sacks and can play all across the line, including a stand-up edge rusher. That could come in very handy when Von Miller's tree trunk legs actually start to take root in the ground and leave him stuck on his chicken farm. And defensive lineman Shelby Harris should have gotten paid this offseason. He didn't, which makes me think he's going to be even more motivated so he can make bank in 2021. Thanks for watching the most underrated players in the AFC. I will have the NFC up as soon as I can. Should be a day or 2 or 3 or 4. I'm on Twitter, Instagram at Brandon Perna. Subscribe here. Blah, blah, blah.